All right. So, Special Forces episode 4. And almost immediately, Landon wakes up, goes to the medic because he couldn't sleep all night. And it turns out that he has fractured ribs on both sides. For those who think men's soccer players are just babies and can't handle injuries, no, they can. So the medic pulled him out, and all four staff go there. Like, Landon's on his deathbed and mentioned that, sorry, we have to medically withdraw you. And that not to beat yourself up over it because they know that as an athlete, I mean, granted, it sucks for anyone that their body let them down, but especially for an athlete who, they pride themselves on being able to physically cut it. So obviously he couldn't. So he shouldn't beat himself up over it. I know he said he would be disappointed, but at the same time, you know, those things happen. I mean, both NFL players are to be blamed for two medical withdrawals, both from the fighting. Because Golden was the one who fought Landon in the previous episode. So, so yeah, they're both responsible for losing two people. So today's today's episode was all about brotherhood. So they named two captains, which was Brody and Golden. And not surprisingly, Golden chose Cam first because duh, of course he did. And Kyla, I believe it was chosen last. And she's like, I've never been chosen last for anything. And so their first task is to inflate their rubber boat and then row to a buoy. Now, once I heard inflate the boat, I knew that Team Bravo would be okay because, well, they've got two football players on their team. It's fine. It'll be fine. Actually, when I saw on Team Alpha that one of the women was inflating the boat, I'm like, I'm sorry, what? You think you can inflate a boat quicker than two NFL players? I mean, I'm sure she's very strong, but what is happening? So, I mean, obviously, they knew who is going to be inflating the boat. And so, of course, they were able to get an advantage of a minute and then promptly piss it away by Golden not saying a peep because he knows nothing about boats, nothing about rowing. Now, the way you lead in that instance is you ask, does anybody know how to row a boat? Okay, then you're in charge of rowing. Technically, you're leading because you're assigning a task to someone who knows better than you how to do said task, as opposed to everybody, putting in their 2 cents as to what should be done. You would be saying, okay, I'm out of my depth, you do it. that's still technically leading. I mean, granted, it's um a bit of a cheat, but it's still technically leading. So they end up behind. They end up um getting getting to the shore 3 minutes after Alpha, because Brody knows what the heck he was doing, and he was encouraging and, constantly barking out instructions, and Golden was doing nothing. None of that. He wasn't, because he decided he didn't know what he was doing, he wouldn't actually do anything. So, of course, they were the ones who brought the boat ashore because, again, football players. So, Golden gets a new one ripped by Q. And, of course, he was pissed off about what happened, because, of course, he was. Why wouldn't he be? He totally messed up. And so everybody ended up with sand in there everywhere. And they get back, and Cam is super pissed at Golden because he didn't lead. And Golden apologized to everybody, but Cam needed a minute to cool down. And as is Saved by the Bell, Golden got called in to staff, and he explained why he was there, why he didn't lead, and Billy basically told him, you have to be a leader no matter what. A leader is a leader is a leader, no matter what the situation is, even if you don't know anything, if you're out of your depth. Because probably Billy was saying, if you don't know what you're doing, assign the task to someone who does. So, by the time Golden comes back, Cam is knocking sand off his Birkin, asking Golden what it sounds like. An ass whooping. And he's like, now you've got to be motivated. And so you can see that they're friends again and everything's fine. But God knows what would have happened if he wasn't called in. Because Cam was really, really pissed because he had sand everywhere, including his hair. And I can only imagine that getting sand out of that type of a hairstyle must be a bitch. Because, like with Golden's hair, oh yeah, you just do a couple of these and it's out. But with Cam's hair, that's gotta suck. I mean, that's gotta suck more than, like Christy's. I'm sure her, sand in my hair would suck. But Sam and Cam's hair would suck so much more because of the way the style is. And so then they get called out again. And this time they need to climb up a sheer cliff and then pull 500 pounds worth of gear up the cliff. So this time they name 2 different captains, which I guess they didn't want to single out Golden, or they just simply want to give other people a chance so they could assess other people's leadership skills. So they chose oh shoot. I'm blanking on her name. And they picked Kyla for in exchange for Brody, and Christy in exchange for Golden. And Christy's like, yeah, I did Cadet Kelly, so I think I'll be fine, being a leader. So, and she did do a great job. I mean, she did what Golden should have done in the first task. She had absolutely no clue how to tie the equipment onto the zip line. And so she basically asked for help. And, somebody who did know, and it's the girl whose name is slipping my mind. I am only thinking ex-girlfriend of Travis Kelce, which I don't want to call her. I want to use her name, but it's just so. So that's what she did. It's like, okay, you know what you're doing, so you do this, or you teach me how. And that's what Golden should have done in the boat. Either listen to what he was being told, or just simply say, you lead. You know what you're doing. You take over. One of the two. So, but she was very motivational. It took Cam and Golden a tough time to get up there, but think about it. These are big guys. So they have to pull their own weight up this mountain, up this sheer cliff, because it didn't look like they had much of a rope, but you're still pulling your own weight. It's not like you have some pulley where you can have an easier time of it. They're literally pulling their own weight. So they get up there though, and they're able to put a lot of equipment on at one time because you've got a couple of football players pulling. Cam it seems like he's stronger than Golden because Golden was, starting to peter out towards the end, and Cam was motivating him to keep pulling. But still, the other team had Carrie and one of the girls, which I'm sure she's perfectly strong, but you're going up against two football players. Why is Brody on the ground? Now, granted, he actually knew how to put the equipment onto the zip line, which Kyla did not know how to do. She even said, let me watch you one more time. And then she decides she's going to go up there. And Brody is down there. Now, granted, he was doing a good job doing that, but they barely lost the way it is. If Brody was up there, they could have possibly tied because still, we're talking about two football players, and it's not like either one retired that long ago. So they're still physically fit. And, the DS is like, oh yeah, the Special Forces gods were smiling on Team Bravo. How? Again, two football players. What are you guys talking about? They are strong simply by existing. Maybe if that football player was, say, a punter, a field goal kicker, someone who doesn't normally need to hit anybody or potentially be hit by somebody, then possibly, because, especially field goal kickers, you really shouldn't be hitting them. If you do that, you did something wrong. So then I could understand, but, these two are both, used to being hit. So yeah, I'm just like, why is Brody, who's an obviously strong guy, not up there where he could do the most good. Brody even wanted to go up there. And then Kyla decided to go up there because she didn't feel comfortable putting the equipment on the zip line. And I'm like, wait, don't you have another girl? Why is she not down there with you? But anyway. So yeah, saying that the Special Forces gods were smiling on Team Bravo, no. It was luck of the draw because, again, 2 football players. So yeah. So they decide for some odd reason that Brody needs to get something off his chest. Probably because he wasn't up there. He was down with everybody, with Kyla. Even though he actually wanted to go up and help Carrie. And Kyla was the one who didn't feel comfortable being down by herself. So they call in Brody because he needs to get something off his chest. Okay. And so the inevitable happened first amongst Team Alpha talking about Caitlyn Jenner. Now, I was kind of cringing whenever she was dead named. Now, I understand that she was famous before she transitioned, but at least he said formerly was, so at least he's aware, and he did properly refer to her as a she, use proper pronouns, so it's obvious he's fine with it. It's just, how do you explain to people who probably don't know who she previously was, who she was? I mean, like, Cam only knows about Caitlyn Jenner because of Keeping Up with the Kardashians, not because she used to be a decathlete. So, like, if Marion Jones was still there, you wouldn't have had to emphasize the dead name, because I'm sure Marion Jones would completely know who she was. It would have been fine. But, so I understand that you have to dead name her for that purpose. But yeah, part of me was cringing at that. It's like, you really shouldn't do that. But again, he understands it used to be, everybody understands, used to be a guy. Fine. Why Cam took Golden aside and, made a big deal of the fact, oh, who's your dad? As if everybody in the entire world has watched Keeping Up with the Kardashians or possibly knows their history of track and field. But I just thought that, why are you shaming him for this? I mean, okay, he doesn't have to know that Brody Jenner is the son of Caitlyn Jenner and that she transitioned. There's no reason for him to know this. It's the same way as when people complain, oh, these aren't celebrities, I haven't heard of these people. I mean, there are, I've never heard of Golden Tate, but he's a Super Bowl champion, so obviously he's a celebrity. But I'm not familiar with him. I don't know what team he played for. But hell, I don't even know what position he played. Cam Newton, I've heard of. But that doesn't mean that Cam Newton is a bigger celebrity than Golden Tate. It just depends on who you've paid attention to. So, No, I'm not going to be one of those that, oh, I never heard of this person, so how are they a celebrity? Depending on what you follow, they're probably a celebrity to you. So, yeah, not gonna say anything about that. So, why are we shaming Golden for, or making it sound like he broached a sore subject? Because maybe it is a sore subject. Maybe at one time it was. It obviously sounds like at one time it was a sore subject, but it sounds like that he and Caitlyn are in a better position, that they're in a better place. So yeah, I just thought that that was unnecessarily melodramatic. But then again, he's only seen Keeping Up with the Kardashians, so it's possible he doesn't know that they're cool now. Um, so it's nice to see that it ended with everybody getting along, including Cam and Golden. That whatever problems they had, they're past. And yeah, it sucks that there's now 8 recruits left, and we're on day 4. We're not even halfway, but half the recruits are gone. Now, granted, most of them were medically evacuated. So, 4 of those recruits were medically evacuated. So, to say, like, to make it sound like this group wasn't strong enough. It's their bodies that broke down. It's not like they mentally checked out. There were a couple, but most of them had broken bones. So you really can't fault them for that. But so next week it looks like I'm trying to remember what were the seats for next week. Oh yes, they're doing the gas again. So it's going to be very interesting to see. It just sucks so much that Nathan had his nose broken, because I would have loved to see him in that task, because you have to be able to control your breathing. And what better than a swimmer, and especially an Olympic swimmer, to know how to do just that? I mean, I'm sure as football players that there's some of that, because they are athletes. So controlling your breathing should be something that they're aware of. But I can't imagine anyone figuring that out better than a swimmer. And Marion Jones, who's a sprinter. Those two, I think, would have done a great job. Well, provided Marion's brain doesn't tell her to do something incredibly stupid. But in theory, they should have the breathing part down just fine. So that sucks. Landon, well, soccer players do a lot of running, so I would think that he would have done pretty good in that as well. So it sucks that we're not going to have seen them doing that. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how these 8 recruits handle themselves. Let's see. We haven't seen much of, I think her name is Alana. She's a surfer. We heard her say, like, maybe a sentence this week, and that's the first time we've seen her, heard from her. So I hope this doesn't mean that more people are going to leave. before we see more of her? Because I don't want any of these guys to drop out. I want them to all make it to the end. I mean, who says that only 2 or 3 people per season can make it to the end? So, yeah, I really don't want to see anyone else dropping out. Um, I believe that is all I have for this episode and this video. So, with that, I will see you guys in the next one.